Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments thus far as well. If you want to be part of the conversation on Twitter, the hashtag PMLive, emails pmlive@skynews.com.au. Joining us now from Brisbane, a Happy New Year and welcome back to a carryover champ of many shows here at Sky News. But we found him first. Gary Hardgrave from 4BC. How are you, mate?
Oh, look at this. Just terrific to be with you. And, Paul, wasn't that a great event, that event in Germany? I'll let the doctor win, but, you know, you and I both tried.
You did very well, and I thought when you were wrapped in alfoil at the end, it was really exciting as well. A man
I know, keep me away.
Yeah, a man who is a marathon in and of himself. He is a triathlete just in everything he does. The big brain that is broadcaster, comedian, Peter Burner. How are you, sir?
I'm very well.
Hello. You got rid of the beard. You've just kept like this, the middle beard.
I've trimmed down to my you know, because I'm thinking of buying a real motorbike.
Oh.
So I thought I better look like a real motorbicyclist.
Well, this is good. All right. Well, don't fire shots at anyone. Don't bung into it all completely.
No, I'm a very gentle guy.
All right, gentlemen, let's jump into the politics of the day. Surprise, surprise, it's about leadership. It's day 2 of our year on the TV, and here we go again. Simon Crean seemed to have been the official attack dog today, pushing back on the most recent suggestions that Kevin Rudd may well be marshalling the troops, and when all of the Labor MPs get together for an ideas session this weekend, that they'll actually be doing the numbers on who should be the Prime Minister. Here's Simon Crean on 3RW today.
Kevin has been doing a fantastic job on the international stage. He's an excellent foreign minister.
He would cut off his arm to be Prime Minister again, and you know that.
OK, but he can't be Prime Minister again. So the question for him is he's got to accept that. People will not elect as leaders those they don't perceive as team players, Neil.
And he is not perceived as a team player?
I'll leave that judgment to others.
Now, Gary, there's about 100 parts to this question, but let's just focus on the first bit here. Simon Crean, when pushed today by Neil Mitchell, basically said the reason why we can't change leaders is because I believe we shouldn't ever change the leader. Not that we have the right leader, not that there's a better leader somewhere else, not that Julia Gillard is the best person. His view, being a Labor leader who copped it once, is we should never unelect a Labor leader. Now, what do you think is going on behind the scenes here?
Actually, I've been madly looking to fund any Hollywood script that this has been brought from, and I think there could be a scene in Portnoy's Complaint. Now, that's a really...
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's a long way back.
Google that one, kids. It's on IMDb.
I mean, seriously, this is, pretty limp from Simon. Look, the trouble is him saying it has now just put the whole thing right on the national agenda, and it should be, because this is the big elephant that's always in the room, and we talk about politics. People in Queensland don't really like Julia Gillard, full stop. They like Kevin Rudd, full stop. Caucus hates Kevin Rudd, full stop. So that's it. It's not going to be Kevin. It's as simple as that.
Well, this is the thing. Here's parts 2 and 3 of the question. I want to imagine that you're mates with Julia Gillard. You're an MP that's loyal to her. What's the advice that you give to her about killing off the challenge and killing off the talk? As a mate on the inside, if it was your leader, what would you say to her right now?
Well, she's got to deliver on some stuff, and she's got to sort out the piffle, and she's got to show some leadership. I mean, last week, let's face it, all of these polls and everything don't reflect on that Australia Day catastrophe, which a mate of mine in Washington sent me an email saying, hey, I'm watching it on NBC Nightly News right now, your Prime Minister getting pilloried. I mean, the Prime Minister could not even work that out for 24 hours. So what we desperately, desperately need are people to go back to root and branch politics. It's about the people. It's not about you. It's about the country. It's about delivering. It's about being clear in a vision, and whether we hate the vision or not, at least we understand the vision. And frankly, I don't know what she stands for, and I don't know where she's taking us, and that's the scary part.
And if you're Kev's mate, does he push now?
Well, Kev's got to push because it's an all-or-nothing thing for Kev. But, I mean, Kev, frankly, is looking kind of tragic, really.
I agree.
Now, he's looking tragic. Kev, you got to get over it, son. I lost on the 24th of November 2007 after 11 years, 267 days. I'm kind of over it. You were Prime Minister. You got the big gig. You got the lifetime pension. You got the lifetime staff, the lifetime use of Comcar. You got international travel. Just shut up and get on with the job, or get out of the way and let someone else do it.
And Gary's more than happy to offer the co-hosting position of the Drive Show on 4BC. You'll be able to share it. It'll be Rudd and Gary. I look forward to that. Now, Pete, what a massive...
With a crash show position then, I think.
Exactly. What a massive surprise. Here we are, 2 days back on the show. It's already the front page. We're already talking about leadership.
For the nation.
But it's fair dinkum, because there was that sense that that Julia Gillard had had enough of a break over summer. The Australia Day thing happening in those early hours looked like it played in her favour. And now here we are. It's back to chaos and catastrophe. Is that because there actually is chaos and catastrophe, or this is the Twitter world we live in? It's all awesome or it's all terrible.
It's a lot of that. It's all awesome and it's all terrible, but I also don't think politicians can get a break from it anymore. Just because it's been a holiday and the Parliament hasn't been sitting, it doesn't mean they're getting a break from anything. And look, I like that Simon Crean's come out and gone, Kevin, enough.
Yeah.
Walk away, son. You're not a team player. You're never going to be Prime Minister. The last thing the Labor Party needs to do, and the last thing we as a nation need, is Kevin Rudd back in charge of the ship again. I'm not saying that Julia Gillard's done a terrific job, but...
But it is that thing too where clearly Julia Gillard is trying to do this already, but she needs to be saying to as many high-profile people as possible, don't tell me in my office that you've got the support. Get out there and start saying it publicly. I thought that the interview, which went for a solid 15 minutes, was a fire-up, and it was one of those ones where if I was on the other end and asking the questions, I would have no doubt about how he feels, which is this thing shouldn't change. I wouldn't believe that he was saying one thing on the air and another thing as soon as we're in an ad break. I would like to see a little bit more honesty like that from her supporters.
To pick up on Gary's idea of a Hollywood movie, it's Pacino in Friday Night Lights when he's when he's in the dressing room and he's firing them up. He's got a couple of injured star players, and he's got the daughter of the owner that wants to sell the franchise. But this is, I think Simon Crean's a bit Pacino-esque.
Yeah, when he sits there and he gives that speech about life's about inches.
That's it.
And all you have to do is reach for the extra inch, and then somebody loses an eyeball.
That's the one.
Great movie.
Oh, that's
one of
either
Oliver
the
Stone's
Last Boy
best.
Scout or one of them, I don't know.
All right, let's any given Sunday, I think. Let's turn our attention to Tony Abbott.
Hey, and Paul, and you've got to understand that Kevin Rudd is, of course, he's the Marlon Brando guy out of On the Waterfront. I mean, he could have been somebody, you know.
I actually think he's probably a little bit more like Kurt from Sound of Music, who finds them in the cemetery and points them out to the night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let's talk about Tony Abbott just for a moment, gents. I love when these two get together. Now, let's talk about Tony Abbott. He delivered today what he believed to be his vision of the future, which largely was having a go at the current government. But anyway, this is what, in part, he had to say about the economy, then immediately followed by the Prime Minister, who, funnily enough, disagrees with him.
My plan for a stronger economy is to scrap unnecessary taxes, cut government spending and reduce the red tape burden on business. My plan to reduce the cost of living pressures on families is to take the carbon tax off their power and transport and make government live within its means. I know how to build a stronger economy because I was a senior minister in a government that did so.
Managing an economy and keeping it strong isn't enough. You've got to make sure that you're managing that economy in the interests of working Australians so that they're getting their fair share. Looking at the Australian economy today, we are a pillar of strength in the world, the envy of the world. And looking directly at what is happening in our economy, we see more jobs, lower taxes and lower interest rates than we saw under the Howard government.
Sorry.
No, I don't blame him, mate.
Honestly.
Not off. But she can't even sell good news well.
But this is it. I mean, she's standing there at the stock exchange after getting a bit of a briefing.
A lot of green behind her.
Yeah, a lot of green. Things are good.
Things are
great.
good
If the timetables
are moving. Greens are good.
Now, this thing, though, I mean, Tony Abbott had the chance today to stand there and say, this is what I believe in, this is where I think we should go. I think that a good idea was the idea of the National Dental Scheme. I banged on about that.
Absolutely. I don't understand why it isn't.
Yeah, but also, I think there's something to be said about the way he wants to pay for it. Now, to me, it seems like easy criticism to make, and if Julia Gillard did this, she would be up for the same type of criticism. But, Gary, I think that there's something, dare I say, a little bit responsible about him saying, I believe in national dental, but it'll cost $4 billion. We can only do it when we've got a surplus of more than $4 billion. We can't spend money that we don't already have. What did you think of that part of the promise? Because the political people are all rolling their eyes about that one in Canberra.
Yeah, but I mean, Tony Abbott actually showed himself to be responsible from an economics point of view. I mean, he didn't say, here, I'm going to make you feel good, we're going to do this, and we'll pay for it somehow. He actually said, here is a plan. I mean, in Queensland, the government here announced how they're going to spend the royalties from coal seam gas mines that aren't even operating, and they've promised kids that are born this week that when they finish year 12, the university is going to be paid for by this mines to mines policy, and they're spending money they haven't even already got. So you can't have that kind of daft public policy. Look, Australia is nowhere near as well as operating as well as it was. It can operate much better than it currently is. The government is blowing money hell west and crooked. Tony Abbott has said, let's have a national dental scheme. It's a thing that a wealthy country like us should be doing.
Correct.
But we can't do it until we actually pay off some of the stuff we already owe. We got, $130 billion in the red or some damn thing. So he's right to do it that way, thank God.
But also there seemed to be, again, a lot of gnashing of teeth, and we don't quite understand what you're saying, sir. Are you dog whistling about something? Are you trying to start a fight? When he was saying, in part of the problem is the size of government, perhaps how much we expect from government. And people automatically think that means public servants. But it seems that you open the paper every day, you turn on talkback radio or you watch shows like this, it's always about government solutions to problems that either government isn't really responsible for, or we just keep turning to them as if they're the third parent in the room all the time. Do you think government itself is too big? Is there something in that?
Yeah, there's definitely something in that. Look, I agree. I think they do throw out these bombs to make, and I think Gary's makes a good point there. For once he had a politician going, this is what needs to be done, but it's going to cost a fortune, so I'm not going to make you some pie-in-the-sky promise that we will do it on the very first day that you elect us.
Yeah.
That was, to me, was very refreshing. But I would like to see, for the size of government, absolutely.
Well, and it is that thing, though, Gary, where a lot of people want to pass that off as some sort of a conservative talking point. But in the couple of years that I've been sitting here doing this show, every day you watch the news so closely that you see where money goes, or more importantly, where priorities are. And there's a lot of places where government is now involved, where as soon as it gets involved, it needs to constantly find a reason to be in that space in our lives. Yeah. And to me, that's the bit that's insidious about an ever-growing government.
Yeah, and look, Paul, I think we actually really desperately want to have a hardcore... Now, I don't want the eyes to glaze over, listeners, so viewers, so just stay with me for a second, right? We've got to have a hardcore debate built around a couple of simple philosophies, right? If you trust the people, you don't over-govern them. If you trust the people, you don't over-tax them. If you trust the people, you don't over-regulate them. You punish the people who do the wrong thing and give freedom to those who do the right thing. Now, I actually would like a debate in Australia about the way in which governments enact public policy built around that sort of a principle. We don't have that. And Tony, I think, has the capacity to deliver that kind of debate. And Julia Gillard, to her credit, would have the capacity to deliver the opposite, and that is, well, essentially we don't trust people. That's why we've got to tax them heavily. That's why we've got to bring in flood levies. We've got to bring in carbon tax. Why we've got to bring in big bureaucracies and more regulation. Get the government out of the way of the people who do the right thing. Punish the wrongdoers, not the people who do the right thing. That's what I would like to see public policy debate get around do right now.
And also the thing is that I don't care whether it's the left, centre or right who argue this. I think that patting people on the back and rewarding people for working harder, and if that means the more money that they earn, but still there should be greater incentives to go harder. If you're in a small business, you should be rewarded the harder you go.
Don't make it hard for me to open my doors every morning, or guess what? I'm not going to open my doors every morning.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, exactly. And also,
if we can have a government inquiry into this, mate, we get the government to inquire into this question.
We should just have an inquiry.
Yeah. We'll do a special show. We'll do a 1 hour show, and that'll be enough of an inquiry. Transcript will make no sense.
Put it in a document, and they can shred it.
All right.
But in all seriousness, if we trust the people, we'll let the people get on with their lives to lawfully go about themselves. If somebody does something wrong, we throw the book at them. Why do we keep punishing people on an everyday basis in this country?
Now, I want to talk about the Queensland election, the unique perspective of yours, Gary, here, which is, from the outside looking in, every opinion poll seems that the Bligh government is gone. But given how long the date is before they go into caretaker, before a good solid 2 months before there actually is an election, is there any way that they will be able to polish up the past few years and somehow make this a lot closer than it seems? Because my initial feel was that it would be Campbell Newman in a minority government thanks to support from the Katter MPs.
Yeah, look, I think you're right. I think there is a very good chance that Anna Bligh will polish it up. Anna Bligh is the best thing going for the Labor Party in Queensland. Kevin Rudd used to be, but I think Anna Bligh is. She has had a patchy last 12 months, but I still, hand on heart, say She is a strong campaigner and a good campaigner. If anybody can fix it up, it's her. But, Paul, the biggest single problem I think that's slowly emerging is the really poor quality of candidates on both sides. There is a genuine problem on the talent pool, and maybe some will say, oh, you're just an old, you used to be a member of Parliament, but I'm just simply saying that it concerns me that a lot of good community people, there's a lot who are good, who are contesting it, but there's a lot of hacks and there's a lot of, special deals done, and this faction in the Labor Party or that faction in the Liberal Party have produced, a person to run. And whether people actually get the real community champions you want in the Parliament after this next election is to my mind, the big debate. Does that matter? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe, people are just going to say, oh, forget Anna Bligh, I just want to, I've had a Holden in the garage for years, now I want a Ford. I mean, get rid of them. And that, I think, is ultimately what's going to happen. Hey, but I tell you what, Bob Katter's party, they're picking up votes in country Queensland hand over fist right now.
So basically working at the maths is that the Labor Party's stronghold is essentially Brisbane, suburban Brisbane. The Nationals have the control of the regional areas, but if Katter takes from what would be notionally national wins, the Labor Party can hold the line here and there. Where does Campbell Newman have to win, and where is he likely to win to actually turn this thing around? Can Brisbane literally switch from one side to the other?
Yeah, I think it can, but I've got to say there is some, it's difficult for some. See, Bob Katter's actually picking up a lot of blue-collar Tories, if you like. The old-style working-class bloke who voted Labor and was a part of his union who frankly, and we're on subscription television, don't like wankers, and they don't want to vote Green, and they don't, they just want to vote for real people. And Bob Katter's crew, in a lot of those real old Labor seats through Ipswich and places like that, is actually picking up a big chunk of vote, 14, 15, 16% in a metropolitan sense. So, Katter's actually attracting the old DLP type of Labor voter, and that is a problem for Labor because with optional preferences, Labor's vote gets brought down, and the Liberal National Party, as it's a combined party here in Queensland currently, I guess it'll stay that way, anyway, we'll see. It has picked up support in a couple of real Labor seats by default because Labor's vote's been diminished by Katter's party. And then in some country areas, the LNP vote is being diminished by Katter's party as well. So, Katter could end up with 10 seats, and Labor could end up with 15, and the rest go to the Liberal National Party by, Campbell Newman with 70 seats sort of thing.
See, I love this stuff. This is why I love Queensland. We'll wait and see what happens in the next little while. Full coverage here every day during the campaign here on Sky News. Press red to see the multi-view and the local channels as well for the latest news from Brisbane. We'll take a break, and then in a moment, as I mentioned at the start of the show, there is a rugby league player who I don't think should be playing this year. See what the gents think next. And what do you think? Keep the comments coming. Hashtag PM Live on Twitter. This is Paul Murray live across the country, only on Sky News. Thanks very much for watching. I'm here in conversation with Gary Hardgrave from 4BC in Brisbane and comedian, broadcaster, big-brained and wonderful bearded Peter Burnett joins me here at the desk.
Settle down. Let's not overdo it. He's been drinking, folks.
At Sky News. All right, now, as I mentioned at the start of the show, there is this rugby league player called Isaac Gordon. Now, Isaac Gordon, that's the guy. Plays for the Cronulla Sharks, relatively low-profile guy, not a household name, which is probably why you haven't heard much about a story that I think there's a lot more to. Now, September of last year, Isaac Gordon comes home after a night drinking with teammates, is confronted by a 7 months pregnant, very angry girlfriend because it's 7 o'clock in the morning, and clearly those confrontations happen when those sorts of things take place. Now, he pled guilty to a series of events that were detailed in the Sydney court where basically the girlfriend was pushed against a wall, there were threats made against her life, and the magistrate, I want to get this very clear, referred to it as a nasty assault. Now, rugby league is one of those sports that goes out of its way to celebrate the women in league and call in academics for greater relations between men and women, all of these sorts of things. Yet, this evening, the club that he plays for has still made no decision about whether he will be fined, sanctioned or sacked, and the governing body, the NRL, have also made no decision. They say they have to wait for the club to make its decision. I'm hardline on this because I think none of us are going to argue anything but the assault of a partner is disgraceful. A 7 months pregnant partner, the relationship is broken up and she now has an AVO out against him, so that relationship is done. should he lose his job?
No, I don't think he should lose his job. I agree with everything that you've said. It is disgraceful. And just because they're bringing in outside people, academics, to teach them about respect to women and women shouldn't be hit, and they hold classes for it, not every student is going to get a pass mark in that class. So clearly this guy has anger issues or alcohol issues, or he's clearly a mean drunk, and a lot of people are. He has pled guilty in the courts. He's been given his due punishment by the courts. He's been made a pariah socially. I would imagine amongst his friends and family there's an awful lot of that he's dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Would anybody else in any other occupation lose their job because of it? You might be ostracised by your colleagues, but would you lose your job?
Well, this is the thing, is that I think that there are certain crimes that should result in, just for want of a better term, some time on the bench, and that's what I'm arguing for. I'm not saying he never plays again, never makes another dollar, but for this season, a statement is made by the game that wants to go out of its way to talk about how inclusive it is. So my thing is that if you've decided to go out of your way to say, hey, look how inclusive we are, you've set the standard for yourself as the employer. If you're a real estate agent that has made no statements about it whatsoever, well, maybe you can argue...
But he's not making the statements. The organisations he works for is making the statements.
But he's worn the pink socks.
No,
and he's done
sure
all
he's
the
worn the
things
pink socks.
Do.
But, does the guy who gets busted drink driving, does he not play again? Does the guy who takes a dump in a hotel corridor, does he not play again? But
that's the thing to me, that it's like, I don't think that they're all equal offences. And that's why, to me, because he pled guilty, this wasn't dragged to an ultimate conclusion by a court. There's something about this. Yet there seems to be, for want of a better term, Gary, a bit of a conspiracy among the rugby league media to say nothing about this. It doesn't appear anywhere on the TV newses. It's nowhere in the newspapers. I mean, honestly, if this was a high-profile player, we would have started the show with it and talked for 25 minutes about it.
Yeah, Paul, I got to say, I think you're more right than Peter on this. And my lovely wife, Lorraine, is watching right now, and she'll say, thank God you stood up for this, because she used to love watching rugby league, and the series of events, and and Peter sort of says about the bloke who dumped in the toilet, and then there were the three football players.
If he'd done that.
Well, but the three football players who took a bird into a toilet vest. I mean, all these things. She doesn't want to watch rugby league. She has turned off the game, and I thought there was this Rugby League Commission coming that was going to take this out of the hands of the NRL and was going to deal with these things. Now, I can only go on your report because I have no other knowledge of it other than, the court report, I guess, and your report, Paul. But seriously, this is bad for the game. And I also think there's got to be a question asked of the Cronulla-Sutherland Sharks, the Sharkies, because, and God love them, I mean, it was a district I grew up in as a kid out in the Shire, but I worry that they've had a bit of a track record of a few players there. And, I mean, Anthony Griffin, the coach of the Broncos, dropped Gerald Gallier into the North's team, the Brisbane competition team, as punishment for sleeping in. He's handled that. And I think there's got to be a culture at a team that has to be explained to its fans and indeed to the wider rugby league community. So I think it's over to the Sharks board to work this out for themselves.
And obviously we keep an eye on it. The NRL say that they will too. They do take it very seriously. The coach, by the way, of the Sharks referred to the whole thing as a hiccup today at a press conference.
That's not the language you want to be using.
That's disgraceful. Yeah. I mean, seriously, that in itself underscores my point about the culture of the club. The club's now got to deal with this, and the board of directors at the club, and I mean this very seriously, because I'm a company director, by qualification. My point is the board have got to now account to their membership base, their shareholders, about that kind of conduct as well. I mean, I think that's reportable as well.
Oh, absolutely. But as I say, go try and finding it anywhere but this program right now. Hopefully it becomes a bigger story tomorrow. Over to you, my friends in the media. All right, let's turn our attention to some other things here, including Dick Smith. Woolies today have announced that they are going to sell off the iconic brand. They've owned it for the best part of 20 years. The whole thing's been around for 30 years. It was, of course, started by Dick Smith, and I spoke to him this afternoon with one simple question. He doesn't want Woolies to sell it to an overseas interest. He's got enough money. So there's a pretty obvious question that you should ask good old-fashioned Dick Smith. Have a listen.
You've got enough cash, you've got enough of a name, any chance of buying back the brand and just going back to the simple electronics store where people who know what they're doing can go and buy spare parts?
Very little chance of that because I think the cost would be too great. I think they'll end up selling Dick Smiths. I'm dreading if it's going to go to a big foreign multinational. That to me will be a disaster. I'll then change my name because there's no way they're going to be passing off Dick Smith as if it's Australian when it isn't.
Now, I like Dick Smith, but isn't the thing here, Peter, is that sort of everyone immediately jumps to Dick to say, oh, what's your comment about this business that you sold 20 years ago? What should happen to it? He's got enough cash that if he wanted to, he could open up, and I said this to him today, open up an Australian supermarket. Just start one little place, and if people flock to it, guess what? Another one, just like his original fortune was built.
He doesn't want to do that, though, mate. Why would he want to do that? He's got enough cash. Why would he want to risk his cash now? It's interesting, in the article he said, look, it's run its course, it's got no growth, that's why they're going to trim it down and flog it off. So if it's not a business that's performing very well and it's going to disappear anyway, does it matter that it's going overseas? Does it? I mean, I don't like to see Aussie icons go overseas, but if it's not performing, does it matter?
But an interesting thing that Dick Smith did also say today, which is that the concern that he has is that this is a type of that Woolies now runs, the type of business where if you don't make 5% more than you did last year, somehow you've failed. You can't just make the same amount every single year, which he said that's what he did for 10 years to build the business up. Basically, it's a level game all the way through. Is there something in that comment that, because all of us are invested in the share market, whether we want to or not, we demand more and more and more, and eventually there's only so many people who want to buy those little flashing blue light kits that they sell at Dick Smith Electronics?
That they used to sell at Dick Smith.
Correct.
They don't sell them anymore.
No,
they don't sell them anymore.
Yeah.
I went into my local Dick Smith.
Yeah.
Well, no, mate, I went into my local Dick Smith electronics store just before Christmas because I wanted to buy, a little piece of componentry, and the guy said, go to J-Car. They're the ones that sell all that stuff. We don't sell that anymore. This thing is more like JB Hi-Fi than the old Dick Smith stores. And look, I kind of agree with Peter. I get the feeling this is a business. If Dick Smith had made the point that this is a business that's got no growth in it, I get the feeling that the brand is about to disappear, like Neptune service stations did in the 60s, Yeah. It's very sad, but Dick Smith Electronics... great, got lots of great things in there, and they're very competitive on a lot of prices, so I don't want to sort of upset any sponsors of this station, but I make the point they're not the business they were 30 years ago, 40 years ago when Dick Smith was running.
No, it used to be soldering irons and guys who wanted resistors and they would build stuff, that's where it all started. Right. It's now exactly as Gary says, it's a sort of pale imitation of... Harvey Normans are doing it and JB's doing it, and let's be honest, anything you buy from Dick Smith you can get online.
Well, and also they swallowed up the competition in Tandy. Remember when basically these two stores were fighting for that same area? Now, all gone.
It's problematic to see a great Australian Dick go overseas, but sometimes that happens.
Alas. All right, now let us turn our attention to a couple of other things, including in New South Wales. The Premier is being accused of a humiliating back-down. There are thought pieces in the press suggesting that he is now the back-down Barry O'Farrell, long-term viewer of this program. Because, you see, there was a deal done years ago, and it was a dumb one, between Coalition and the Labor Party, who were then in government, that unleaded petrol will be pulled from sale in New South Wales. Unsurprisingly, when we got very close to that July 1 switch-off date, people started to get annoyed about it. You see, as you know, there's a 15-cent difference between the E10 stuff and the Super 98, whatever that super thing is that only Michael Schumacher uses, the premium stuff. Anyway, the question is, though, is that this is a politician who clearly did what the public wanted, which was, can we just have normal petrol? Why are we doing this? What are we doing? Clearly there are environmental impacts, all of these things. But is it humiliating when a politician just does what people want?
Oh, that makes a nice change. I would have thought. Good on you, back down, Barry.
Back down, Barry.
Good on you. A bit iffy on that, but back down, Barry, good. Well, I'm still uncertain as to exactly what's happening. They wanted to pull unleaded to leave us with the E10 and the HU Butte.
Yeah, exactly. And the original idea was that there'd be sort of environmental impacts and all the rest, but then somebody realised, well, hang on.
I don't want to pay for the...
I don't want to either have sort of the crappier fuel, which a lot of people have issues with, the ethanol, and I don't want to pay too much for the other stuff.
Well, worse, that you pull into your local servo, and for some reason the E10 pump's not working, which leaves you with just the super fuel to buy. I'm not suggesting that would happen frequently.
Yeah, correct.
But it could.
Yeah, correct. And yes, exactly. Gary, what did you think of this, the back-down Barry politician?
Well, look, the thing I like about Barry O'Farrell is for the bloke that's got an 88% personal majority in his own own electorate of Ku-ring-gai, he spends a lot of time in Western Sydney, and I reckon he would have had a lot of people kick him in the shins and say, listen, Barry, it's a rubbish promise, break it, for heaven's sakes, because I don't want to be paying 15 or 20 cents more as I get some sort of, problem of the pump's not available, the cheap alternative's not there. So, I don't think Barry O'Farrell should be slightly embarrassed at all by the chattering classes, because, he's just doing, frankly, what the people want, and heavens, when would that ever work in politics?
Well, exactly, but also, Barry, at the next COAG meeting, can you please get every state and territory to get together and sign a law? We do not want to be offered chocolates anymore when we go to the service station. Yes, I get it. I can get 17 for $4. I can read the sign. All right, more in a sec. We're live across the country, only on Sky News.
That's fun.
Thank you very much for watching, and g'day to Jo and her husband, who I know are watching. She just tweeted in here. Paul, you just got a massive cheer and a congratulations clap from my husband. He completely agrees with you about no more offers of chocolates at the service station. Jo and your husband, enjoy. And I read the tweets. If you want to be part of them, the hashtag PMLive, email pmlive@skynews.com.au. If you want to follow me personally on Twitter, it is PM on Air. Here in conversation with Gary Hardgrave in Brisbane, Peter Berner here at the desk. Now, a couple of quick things that I wanted to show you guys before we finish up tonight. The first is, this is a video. It comes from the Hobart Mercury. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory but fairly disturbing, which was, there were, and I have to apologise to be so early in the year to say this, but have a look at this for some dickhead behaviour. People are deliberately driving jet skis through a pod of dolphins. Have a look.
Oh, jeez.
This is extraordinary. This is from the Hobart Mercury. They released it today. Have a look.
Oh, Jesus.
Right, so what you can't hear there is a whole lot of screaming that goes on from the people that film the whole thing. Those people, police want to talk to them and all the rest of it. Pete, it seems self-explanatory.
Yeah, it is self-explanatory.
But what sort of idiot, low-life, whatever adjective you want to throw in?
Don't know. I do not know what possesses someone to think that's funny and something I'm going to be doing and having a girl on the back, no doubt, cheering him on. I don't get it. I've never understood that kind of behaviour. Lock them up, throw away the key.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, animal cruelty and all the rest of it, we've talked about this so many times, Gary, but to me it's one of those things where it's the gateway to something else. Clearly there is something wrong with that person.
Yeah, and I've got to get it out of the way. There is no porpoise to any of what they're doing. But sorry, I just had to say. But no, in all seriousness, this actually underscores my earlier point, mate. And that is, you can have all these environmental laws that talk about protection of species and stuff like that, but until you actually say to people, we actually trust most people to engage with dolphins and our natural fauna and all that sort of stuff in a reasonable way, but you drive a jet ski at a bit of wildlife in the water and we're chucking you in jail. And frankly, until you start being that black and white, these kids, if they're under 16 or something, they'll probably, have to write lines or something in the magistrate's office, Until there is a real penalty for real stupidity, these sorts of things will just continue. Take the jet ski off them. Let's have an auction. Let's sell it off.
Nice.
Let's just do something with it.
Where's a shark when you need one? Shark's always taking a bite out of
that's
decent
a better
boat.
line. I like it. Yeah, that's right.
All right, now, a couple of other quick things before we finish up here. You know that always, for some reason, I'm obsessed with Julian Assange news because I just don't like the guy at all. But guess what? He's going to be in The Simpsons. 500th episode. They've decided to draw Julian Assange, and Julian Assange will end up being some neighbour when Homer and Marge have to get out of town. That is what Julian Assange looks like on The Simpsons. I've got to say...
that's a bit sort of Brad Pitt.
But I'm furious that this bloke he's on The Simpsons.
No, look, I'm not. I think he's all a bit creepy and weird.
But the ultimate sign of you have made it in this world is to be Simpsonified.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Gary, they're doing that to Julian Assange, a man who last time I checked is still charged.
Are they going to leak the episode ahead of schedule?
The script.
Are they going to leak it? They should leak it.
Yeah. Gary, what do you think of it?
Paul, you downloaded that off WikiLeaks, didn't you, Paul? Seriously.
I don't download anything.
I'm going to check this, and there could be a Hollywood script about this as well, but I think he could be the first ever Queenslander to be featured on The Simpsons. I am going to check this out.
Oh, yes, you should. Yes, you should. I think there were sort of references to Steve Irwin, but not starring, so I think he may well be. All right, report back to us
it could be.
in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Kim Kardashian. This is very fast, but I think we can all collectively roll our eyes. She tweeted today that she wants to start a Bible study group.
Good! I'm going to be... has she read it?
I think she stood on it once.
She skimmed through it.
There'll be questions, Kim. There'll be questions.
And it doesn't end well. And he doesn't know how to accessorise. Who wears the cross at Easter?
But fair dinkum. I mean, God, it's self-explanatory. And as Kathy Griffin said, and I completely agree with her, FFS. Which is seriously the best way to put it in Twitter parlance. Finally, I want to show you a cut-down version of a Super Bowl ad that will air next week when the Patriots take on the Giants. Ferris Bueller is back and flogging cars this time. Have a look.
Well, I'm not sure what it is. I guess I'll be okay.
I'm calling the studio, Matthew. You're not shooting today.
No. People are depending on me. Movies bring so much joy.
Stop. It's done. Just get some rest.
Diva. He bought it. How can I handle work on a day like today? Hi, can I get my CRV brought up, please? I've got a lot to do today. Roderick. Roderick. You have excellent taste in automobiles.
Matthew, you poor thing. You sound awful.
Thanks. Have a good night. Said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you'd miss it.
Get going in the all-new CR-V from Honda.
The whole thing goes for 2 minutes. We saved you an awful lot of car porn that was there. By the way, that's the best movie he's made in 10 years, Tower Heist. That was garbage. I apologise to my old age for watching that.
Didn't you love Tower Heist?
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Gary. We'll see you again in a couple of weeks. See you tomorrow night. Sharon's got the latest news. Follow me on Twitter, PM on air. See you tomorrow night.